Good morning, children. Let us begin with part 4 of our chapter Nationalism in India. In the previous part, we read something related to the non-cooperation movement, the major contributions of the non-cooperation movements. We discussed it was a large-scale mass movement, we came to know, which attracted common people from all social groups. Non-cooperation movement and the Khilafat movement went together. Because of this, Hindu-Muslim unity was promoted. The peasant and tribal movements we discussed, they became a significant part of the Indian national movement. Then we discussed about the non-cooperation movement, that it was a non-violent movement, so it popularized the Gandhian idea of non-violent satyagraha. Now, in this part, we will be talking about the withdrawal of the non-cooperation movement. Children, what was the incident which forced Gandhiji to call off the non-cooperation movement? It was non-violent earlier, right? But the movement became violent in some places. February 1922 was the time when in Uttar Pradesh, a place is there, that is Chauri Chaura, people turned violent and they set fire to a police station. Because of this, Gandhi felt the need to train the people in non-violent satyagraha, and that is why he took back the non-cooperation movement. Now let me discuss it. At Chauri Chaura in Gorakhpur, a peaceful demonstration in a bazaar turned into a violent clash with the police. Hearing of the incident, Mahatma Gandhi called a halt to the non-cooperation movement. In February 1922, Mahatma Gandhi decided to withdraw or take back the non-cooperation movement. He felt the movement was turning violent in many places and satyagrahis needed to be properly trained before they would be ready for mass struggles. Within the Congress, some leaders were by now tired of mass struggles and wanted to participate in elections to the provincial councils which they earlier boycotted. Remember, the Justice Party in Madras, only they were ready because it was party of non-Brahmins, right? Now these people who earlier decided to boycott the provincial councils, now they also wanted to participate in elections to the provincial councils that had been set up by the Government of India Act of 1919. They felt that it was important to oppose the British policies within the councils, argue for reform, and also demonstrate that these councils were not truly democratic. That is what they felt. That is why they felt that there is a need to go inside this, that is provincial councils, and from there raising their voice. C.R. Das, that is Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, and Motilal Nehru formed the Swaraj Party within the Congress to argue for a return to council politics. But younger leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, they pressed for more radical mass agitation and they wanted full independence. Simon Commission. Children, a statutory commission under Sir John Simon was constituted by the Tory government in Britain. And why it was done so? Because they wanted to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and suggest changes also in India. But this was opposed by the Indians. And why this was opposed? Because Indians said these things in opposition to this Simon Commission. Firstly, all the members of the commission were Englishmen. And secondly, it did not provide any hope of Swaraj to the Indians. That is why it was opposed. Now let me go through the bullets, the 3 bullets. In such a situation of internal debate and dissension, 2 factors again shaped Indian politics towards the late 1920s. The first was the effect of the worldwide economic depression. Agricultural prices began to fall from 1926 and collapsed after 1930. This was the effect of the economic depression. Agricultural prices, they fell, and finally collapsed, finished in 1930, after 1930. As the demand for agricultural goods fell and exports declined, peasants found it difficult to sell their harvest and pay their revenue also, because there was no demand, so where was the need of supply? So nobody was buying from them their harvest, and thus it became difficult for them to pay their revenue or pay their taxes. By 1930, the countryside was all in a state of turmoil. Everybody was affected by this economic depression. Against this background, the new Tory government in Britain, it constituted, or it appointed, or it made a statutory commission under Sir John Simon. Set up in response to the nationalist movement, the commission was to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and also to suggest changes in that constitutional system of India. The problem was that the commission did not have a single Indian member. They were all British. That is why it was opposed. Go back Simon. When the Simon Commission arrived in India in 1928, that is earlier also I told you, late 1920s, it was greeted with the slogan, Go back Simon. Simon Vapas Jao. All parties, including the Congress and the Muslim League, participated in the demonstrations. Congress plus Muslim League, both of them opposed the Simon Commission. In an effort to win them over, the Viceroy, Lord Irwin, announced in October 1929 a vague offer of dominion status for India in an unspecified future. Sometimes in future, we'll be giving you dominion status, Indian people. This is who said? Lord Irwin. Why? Because he wanted the matter to settle down. And secondly, a round table conference was also, he planned about a round table conference also to discuss a future constitution for the people of India. This did not satisfy the Congress leaders, children. The radicals within the Congress, led by Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, became more assertive because they wanted something concrete. The liberals and the moderates, who were proposing a constitutional system within the framework of British dominion, gradually lost their influence. Why? Because the radicals were more important. They had become more important now for the nationalists in India. The liberals and the moderates, their say was less now. Gradually they lost their influence. In December 1929, under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, the Lahore Congress was formalized and it demanded the Purna Swaraj, or full independence for India. It was declared that 26 January 1930 would be celebrated as the Independence Day, when people were to take a pledge or oath to struggle for complete independence. That is why every year we celebrate on 26 January our Republic Day. But the celebrations attracted very little attention. So Mahatma Gandhi had to find a way to relate this abstract idea of freedom to more concrete issues of everyday life. The Salt March or the Dandi March. Mahatma Gandhi now founded in salt a powerful symbol that could unite the entire nation. On 31st January 1930, he sent a letter to Viceroy Irwin stating 11 demands of his. Some of these demands out of the 11 were of general interest. Others were specific demands of different classes, from industrialists to peasants they ranged from. The idea was to make the demands wide-ranging so that all the classes within Indian society could identify with them and everyone could be brought together in a united campaign. The most stirring of all was the demand to abolish the salt tax. Salt was something consumed by the rich and the poor alike, and it was one of the most essential items of food children. The tax on salt and the government monopoly over its production, Mahatma Gandhi declared, and he revealed the most oppressive face of the British rule. Tax, which was such a basic thing and such a cheap thing, to take tax on salt, government taking monopoly over its production. Mahatma Gandhi said it revealed the most oppressive or most cruel face of the British rule. Mahatma Gandhi's letter was in a way an ultimatum to the British authorities. If the demands were not fulfilled by 11th of March, the letter stated the Congress would launch a civil disobedience campaign or civil disobedience movement would be started. Irwin was unwilling to negotiate. He was not ready to do any sort of compromise or to listen to Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi started his famous Salt March accompanied by 78 of his trusted volunteers. The march was over 240 miles from Gandhiji's ashram in Sabarmati to the Gujarati coastal town of Dandi. The volunteers walked for 24 days, about 10 miles a day. So this has to be kept in mind. 24 days, 10 miles a day, 24 into 10 equals to 240 miles. Thousands came to hear Mahatma Gandhi wherever he stopped, and he told them what he meant by Swaraj and urged them to peacefully defy the British. Peacefully, with non-violent means, not to listen to the British. On 6th of April, he reached Dandi. Who is here? He is Mahatma Gandhi. He reached Dandi and ceremonially violated the law. Which law? The salt law. Manufacturing salt by boiling sea water. And children, this was the event which marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement. Now with this I end my today's part. Thank you children.